Hi, I'm John Groders. Meet Scott A. Peterson, a screenwriter who's making it happen and taking his vision to the screen. It isn't easy, it isn't cheap, there are no guarantees, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I don't think any of the risks are going to faze this guy. Meet him today on No Shame.
Have no shame, no, we are not afraid, no shame of the gospel of his name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid. No shame.
Welcome to the No Shame podcast, coming again from Franklin, Tennessee, Marriott Hotel, ICVM conference, where this collection of talent keeps coming, and I keep getting to meet interesting people, actors, authors, directors, writers, producers, and now Scott Peterson from II Films. You're sitting in the hot seat. Welcome to the No Shame podcast, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And just tell me about this ICVM. What's been your experience with this conference? How many times have you come? That kind of thing.
Yeah, this is my third one. My first one was in Cincinnati a couple of years ago, then last year, and then this one. Just really enjoy it. Everybody here feels like a family, like they've been saying. Yeah, and it's true. I mean, you look forward to seeing everybody. You keep track of them throughout the year. It's a good group of people.
How many people do you think are here? I haven't really heard a count.
Well, I don't know. I would guess 250. Maybe?
Yeah, okay. So
yeah, just looking
200
at the room.
and 250. So this isn't a huge conference. We're not taking over a giant arena or anything. And
Nope.
But it's just enough people that you barely have a chance to get to know everybody. So you and I have both been coming for 3 years now. I was at Cincinnati.
Oh, right. Okay.
But it takes a while to sort of meet that many people,
Yep.
meet the room.
Yep.
But I'm with you. I've enjoyed this conference very much. Now, tell me what you do, Scott. You're in the movie business.
Yep, I'm a producer. My wife and I own a production company in Minnesota called II Films, and we've made 3 feature films so far.
Well, we've got that kind of in common. I mean, I'm sort of sitting here looking at a mirror image of myself. My wife and I own a production company. We've done a few films, and it's quite an adventure.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that. What's it like working together?
Boy, she is an attorney, and so she works a day job basically, and so I kind of run the day ins and day outs. But when it comes to the actual production, she gets more involved in the production year. So throughout the year with the script and then with the pre-production, and then this year, in previous years she's actually gone on set, but in this year she was extremely busy at work, so she. There was like 2 weeks in the middle, or 2 or 3 weeks in the middle of production that she wasn't able to be on set, but usually she's on set and helping out and things like that. Yep.
Is she here?
She's not. Nope. She's back again at her day job.
Yeah. Well, again, my wife is not here. She has come with me to ICVM the last few years, and Judy, my wife's not an attorney, but she might as well be. I mean, she just doesn't have the law school part of it, but that's her brain. That's her. It's her skill set. She's fantastic with very. So this week, Judy's not here at ICVM. I'm alone. She's off in San Francisco producing a motorcycle commercial for an Indian company called
Nice.
Hero Motor Corp, and she's up and down Big Sur and Monterey and dealing with a gigantic crew, a very high-end commercial, and I'm a little hurt that she doesn't need me anymore.
And you're here in the Arctic in Nashville.
I'm in Nashville, but she's become a world-class producer without me
Nice.
anymore. But it's really pretty cool that we can do this kind of work together.
Yeah.
And our skill sets are so different, and it sounds like maybe you and your wife are finding that to be the case for you guys too.
Yeah, I'm. But she keeps me in line. She makes sure all the I's are dotted and the insurance is in place, and
there's so many I's to dot.
I know it.
So many. You can't
Yep.
even imagine every single police escort and barricade and transportation deal and
Yep.
performance release and location release and crew deal and actor deal and unions and,
Music.
and recordings and music. It's unending. And my advice is pass all that stuff off to someone who's good at it.
Yep.
It all matters.
Yep.
What's II Films?
It's just, we just loved our logo is basically what it is. The 2 I's form a cross.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at a lowercase I, the 2 squares on the top and 2 rectangles on the bottom, the space between forms a cross. And we look at it as the 2 of us standing there. and a cross being between us. Where two or more are gathered, there I will be in their midst. And so it's a cross between us. And then the films, our films, is at the base of the cross, and that's where we put our films, at the foot of the cross.
Nice. I hope you guys can come by, visit us sometime in Michigan.
Yeah.
And you come over to our house, and our door and this window over our door is your logo.
Oh, nice.
And I sit there in the mornings, and it's a cross. And I know it was intended that way, but it looks just like your logo.
Yeah, a lot of six-panel doors are that way, too. You see a
Right.
big
The
cross in
six-panel
them.
door
Yep.
is the door, and then the window above it.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool when the sun comes through that in the evening.
Nice.
So you've done 3 features, and you've got one that screened here yesterday, or maybe
Yep.
it was the day before,
Day before, yeah.
called Treasure Wise.
Treasure Lies.
Treasure Lies.
Yep.
Oh, I
Can't-
did
you
write
can't-
that. I can't read my own writing here. I know that. Treasure Lies.
Yep.
Which is a very clever title. I didn't understand it at first, but now I do.
Yep.
What are the treasure lies?
Basically, it's wherever you're putting your. It comes from the Bible verse where you put where your treasure lies. Excuse me. Actually, the Bible verse says is, but where your treasure lies, your heart will be also. And it's basically examining ask the kid in the movie to examine his life and try to figure out where his values are and what he's putting his treasure in. And if it's not Jesus, he needs to rethink his values.
Where your treasure is, there your heart is also. Where your treasure lies, there is your heart also. So tonight we heard a speaker in our main session, and he was kind of speaking to that point. And I wrote down this quote. See if I can get this right. Our speaker was Dan Rubel, who has been really in the game for a long time. He was one of the founding members of Isaac Air Freight, if you might remember the comedic team Isaac Air Freight. But Dan Rubel talked at the end, and he was comparing this business to Daniel. And he said, Daniel was serving a bad king, Nebuchadnezzar, but he served him with excellence, and he became trusted. He refused to bow down to his idols, and then Dan said he wouldn't drink from the king's cup. And it was interesting how he brought that home. He said the king's cup, he thinks, in our world, is fame and fortune. Mm-hmm. And if you try to get in this to drink from that cup of fame and fortune, we just see story after story of broken people that drank from that cup and it didn't pay off. And he was reminding us, as believers anyway, that that's not necessarily where you want your heart.
Not the goal.
So the treasure lies, compared to him tonight, the king's cup is something different than what the world tells us it is.
Yep.
But it's what the Bible tells us it is.
Yeah.
And our treasure should be different. So tell me a little bit about the movie.
In this movie, he's a teenage kid. He's working at a convenience store, and he wishes he had the things that all his friends have. Their parents are buying him cars. He has to work every weekend, and they are off at the football games and the basketball games and things like that. And he's envious of them. And an opportunity presents itself for him to advance monetarily in life, and he takes the opportunity. And it's about how that poor decision affects his life and ways that he can recover from that. And it follows that journey.
So this film is still kind of being, it's still in post a bit, is that right?
It is. We have picture lock, but we still have color grade to do. And then there's some tweaks in the score, some tweaks in the sound, but most of it's there. Yeah.
You're pointing at somebody in the hallway.
Trying to get Benji's attention. Sorry.
Hey, Benji. We're trying to get your attention over
Thank
here.
you.
Scott travels with a small entourage, and so wherever he goes, there's some bodyguards, and there's some lovely women, and there's some well-wishers and some adorations, and one of them is Benji, who's right in the hallway here.
Sorry about that.
So you showed the film 2 days ago, and how did it go? How did that feel for you?
It went really well. It was an unannounced thing, so we only ended up with like 21 people, and it was at 10:30 at night on the first night of the conference. But we had 25 people in there, and they seemed to like it. They laughed at the right spots, which as the writer, you kind of like sit and cringe until you hear that laughter. And,
oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh.
It's such a good feeling when you hear them laugh.
So Scott, you're the writer of the screenplay, and you're the producer of the film.
Correct.
All right. And how long were you guys shooting this film?
It was a total of 24 actual shooting days
Right.
over the course of 30 days in Oklahoma. Yep.
And you are from Minnesota.
Yep.
Why did you go to Oklahoma?
Well, I always joke that Oklahoma has 6 things going for it. It has a 35% rebate. It has my daughter, my son-in-law, and my 3 grandkids.
No.
So it was the first time I got to spend more than a month in the same state as my daughter since she was maybe 17. So it was a great summer.
If the producer really does their job right, they're not that busy on set. Was that true for you?
Oh, no.
You were busy.
Oh, it was crazy.
You didn't do your job right. That's too bad.
Yeah, I can't afford to delegate as much as I would like to.
Yeah. Did you have a UPM? Did you have a production manager?
We did. We had an amazing production manager.
So, yeah.
Allison Weber. I can't imagine doing another movie without her.
Really?
Yeah.
Your Way to go, Allison. Shout out,
Yeah.
Allison Weber.
Yep.
So tell me, what's the plan for this film, Treasure Lies? What's your goal and what's your hope for distribution and for all that?
Yeah, we're here right now just to try to find a distributor, and we have a distributor with the last 2, but we haven't committed to anything yet. We're keeping our options open at this point.
Okay, let's talk about the last 2. This is the third. What were your other 2?
The first one was a movie called The Current, and that came out 5 years ago, and it won a Best Youth Film here at the Crown Awards. And then we had Miles Between Us came out in 2 years ago, when we were in Cincinnati. There, it won Best Drama under $250,000, and our budget was way under $250,000. It was $75,000, or as I like to call it, $0.075 million, because it sounds more impressive.
We had a $0.75 million budget. And what have you done with those films as far as distribution for them?
Yeah, the first one we distributed with Bridgestone Multimedia Group, and they have done really well for us. It's, like I said, done really well. But the second one we put with through a company that I probably shouldn't say, that went bankrupt. And because
I did that.
And we did it. Well, it wasn't through a distributor. It was through an online aggregator, and they went bankrupt. And we haven't got any money from that movie yet. But we just put it with BMG, Bridgestone, and we did that.
Bridgestone Multi-Grid, BMG.
Yep, and we just did that in January. So we still have only got a little bit yet from the contract.
David Austin?
Yeah, I love David.
Oh, yeah, he's a good guy. Well, so tell me about making movies. Would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, easy to hard, how hard is making movies?
Boy, it's probably a 10 as far as hard, but it's like the most enjoyable 30 days of your life. You look back at it and you forget all the hard, and you just remember the easy and the fun and the relationships. It's just, I really, really enjoy it. But like I said, it's super hard work. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I didn't delegate a lot. So, I mean, we get the motorhome and everything loaded up, ready to go for the day, go out to the shoot, try to get there half hour before everybody, leave one of the last people to leave, and then load it up for the next day, so and then on days off, we're out buying stuff for the next week, hitting Costco.
Someone this week said, pain is temporary, but film lasts forever. I thought that was kind of funny because there's some stamina involved day after day. You don't even have time to do your laundry. I mean, it just consumes you.
We had all these different quotes that I've seen from different producers that I admire on the walls of the production office, and the one that Benji put up for me was, "I'll sleep during post."
Yeah, not me. What do you do in the post process? Are you involved?
Yep. Basically, the post supervisor, watching everything go through the process. In this particular case, Brett Varvel, our director, has taken more of a hands-on approach than we have. I don't know if I want to say out loud or we've had in the past.
Right.
And so he's taken a lot more of a driver's seat approach, but yet we're kind of backseat driving, making sure that we agree with all those decisions.
Are you doing that near where you live? Is it in Minnesota?
We are in Minnesota. He is in Indianapolis, and our editor is in Minnesota.
Okay.
And then same with the sound guy. Sound guy's in Minnesota, and then Brett will be doing the color out of Indianapolis.
So what got you into this business, Scott? And has this been a lifelong thing for you, or what's your story?
Yeah, up until age 49, I had no idea that I was going to be doing this. I had all these stories in my head, and I wrote kind of as a hobby. I really enjoyed it, and looking back, I think it was God saying, hey, I got these stories I want told, and so because I had no reason to write them other than just say they were there and I wanted to get them out. And so I started writing. I went to happened to be at a Barnes & Noble, and I saw the Screenwriter's Bible, appropriately, in a dollar bin. So I bought that and learned how to format. And then I just started writing. And then when I got married, my wife read one of my scripts, and she's bawling, and she loved it. And she's like, we should submit it to this contest. And it ended up being a finalist in the Kairos Prize for spiritually uplifting screenplays. And those are all Christ-centered screenplays. And when we entered, there were 500 of them, and it ended up being the top 12. And so we were pretty excited about that, and that somebody other than just the two of us liked my script.
Yeah, right.
And so we were motivated to produce it ourselves. But nothing happened. No doors opened. Nothing happened. So we're like, okay, evidently we're not supposed to be producing. And we were at a vision dinner that our pastor put on, and he asked, when was the last time for Christ you tried something utterly and laughably impossible? And we get out to the car, and she taps me on the shoulder, and she says, he's talking about your screenplays, right? Mm-hmm. And we say from that moment on, we were movie producers. And that was in November, and by April we were casting, and by July we were filming.
When was the last time you tried something
utterly and laughably for Christ? Something utterly and laughably impossible.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it on your own.
Nope.
Right.
Nope. And if you're trying it for something else other than that, you're sure to fail.
What have you learned?
Boy, a lot. Through the process, we call our first movie our flywheel, because it's not as polished, and then we keep getting better and better as far as production values throughout the process. So I think we've learned along the way to how to make a better movie. This one was like a giant leap. The crew we had was a lot more professional crew, a lot more equipment, a lot bigger camera, more expensive camera. It was crazy, the difference. Before we had just basically kind of a trailer that we threw our stuff into. Now we had a professional, 1-ton grip truck and all that. So it was quite a learning experience.
It's a lot of heavy stuff. They call it a 1-ton grip truck, and then a 5-ton grip truck, and you're moving around a lot of stuff to make a movie. There's just the cables are so heavy I can't even wrap them.
Yeah.
You really wrap this massive cable, but it's a wonderful, like you said, it's such an intense process. It reminds me of being a camp counselor. When you're a camp counselor, you spend this intense summer together, and then you never see each other again, but you can never replace that summer you spent together. It was really intense, and it was legit, and it was real. And you want to come back, and you want to recreate it, but it's almost impossible to pull the whole thing back and kind of have that same experience again. But it's intense human experience, and then you ultimately hope that when you put your boat into the water that it sails and people enjoy it.
Doesn't sink.
Doesn't sink. Well, so this new film of yours, Treasure Lies, when's it going to be available?
We're hoping to have the premiere in late February to early March in Oklahoma City, where it was filmed, and then probably releasing sometime maybe June-ish. Depending on what we're looking at. We probably will end up doing the theatrical run ourselves, kind of thing. So we have no P&A budget.
Right.
So
by ourselves, we will be driving door to door, knocking on the door, saying, hey, here's a movie for you to see.
Exactly. Unless somebody comes along and says, wow, we want to help you with that.
Wow. Well, I guess I don't quite know how to phrase this question, but why Why are you doing this? What would you say your mission is?
Well, I just want to tell stories that glorify Christ. That they're not necessarily our stories don't really have come to Jesus moment for the characters where they actually they give their life to Christ at the end, kind of thing. We don't have that in our stories. We just see them along the path, and we see what's happening, and we know that they're going in the right direction, and we're happy for them at the end. And so that's kind of the way life is, that you don't necessarily, things don't turn around in a week or 2 weeks or whatever, like on screen. They are a process, and you're growing, and your seed has been planted, and it's growing and growing and growing, and hopefully it's on fertile soil. And that's what we're kind of doing, is we're just showing glimpses into these people's lives, and then I don't want to say that whether it was a happy ending or not, but we want the audience to know that the characters are going the right direction at the end.
I have a writer friend, and every time I finish a screenplay, he grills me. And one of his penetrating questions is, what's the question that needed to be answered in this story? Mm-hmm. Does anyone ask you that?
No, it's a good question, though. In this one, it's like, what would you do if opportunity presented itself to steal if you knew you could get away with it? And
there's a lot of fables, fairy tales about this. I mean, this is in some ways Jack the Beanstalk. I mean, he has a chance to steal the beans, and he steals the beans. And
I don't remember that when I was 5.
You don't remember Jack the Beanstalk? I don't either.
I remember he climbs up a beanstalk, but I don't remember the moral lesson of it.
All right. Well, maybe we better not get ourselves in trouble here. But it seems like he took advantage of stealing something that he thought would lead him to some riches, and it didn't go so well. But it's a question that's very personal, isn't it? I mean.
Well, the personal part is that when I was in high school, I felt sorry for myself. I didn't have a car and all this stuff, and then, I did have a car. My folks actually bought me a $600 '69 Chevelle when I turned 16. But I worked from 14 on, so from 14 to 16, I was just like wanting more and more and more. And I was working all the time. Well, like I said, my friends were at football games and basketball games and things like that. So I did have a little envy going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did you steal money, or what did you do? Knock off a bank?
I did not, but actually, there's a scene in the movie. Cameron Arnett plays our pastor in the movie and just knocks it out of the park. But there's a scene where he talks about that he, as a child, stole a candy bar. And in my life, my brother and I talked him into it. It wasn't his idea, it was mine. He's my younger brother. We would go into the grocery store and walk up to the candy and pretend like we're looking, and would pocket a thing of Tangerine Lifesavers and walk out.
But you had him do this?
We both did.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, but I was the instigator.
Yeah, right.
And
what's the statute of limitations, by the way, on Tangerine
Lifesavers?
Lifesavers?
Otherwise, we wouldn't be saying.
Okay. I want to make sure that there's nobody coming.
No, we actually got caught. The manager caught us. He grabbed us both by the neck, and this story is told in the movie by Cameron. Took us back behind the produce department and told us that he was going to call our parents. And what Cameron says is my words, that I'd rather go through forms of torture than have my dad be disappointed in me. Mm-hmm, and that's kind of the way we should be with our Heavenly Father. We'd rather multiple things happen than have our Heavenly Father be disappointed in us.
What's the power of movies, Scott? When you think about all this work that you do to put together a film, what's the opportunity and what's the power of cinema in your view?
It can really change society. If there's evil things in the world, and you put them in movies, and you just put them in the movies as if they're regular things happening in life, and after seeing it in 50 movies, people just accept it. And if we can do the same thing the other way around, put good in movies, and even just a mom and a dad walking holding hands, you don't have to say anything about it. The audience sees that, and they see a loving relationship, and then if they see it in 50 movies, then it becomes a normal thing. And I think that even if, like we saw a movie here the other day that it didn't have an overtly Christian message, it had maybe 2 mentions of Christianity and faith, but yet again, a good movie, And if you just put that out there for a regular audience to see, and they just get those two little subtle messages, and they take that away in the back of their mind, maybe even. But just you can change society for good or for evil with film.
We're pretty entertainment hungry as a culture. I mean, maybe not everybody, and maybe some people are actually in this day and age, in some ways they're unplugging maybe more than they did before. In other ways, I mean, we're so tethered, so many of us so tethered to social and internet and, smartphones. I'm not the predictor of what's the future of cinema. I don't know. I mean, television is certainly hot, and movie theaters in some cases are becoming a little bit more sparsely populated. It certainly was the background of my age, that night where you'd go out to the theater on Friday night. And, it's sort of like watching a football game for me. I mean, when I sit home and, I'm a sports fan, whatever sport is on, I turn that sport on because I just want to now turn off the work of the day and let something else take over my consciousness, something that I'm interested in. I want to be entertained. With sports, I don't know how it's going to end because nobody knows how it's going to end.
Right.
I'm compelled by the fact that the ending has not been written yet. So when I go to a movie, I really don't want it necessarily to be good for me. I know I should, but I mean, it's sort of like, I should just eat vegetables. I really just want to be entertained.
Right.
What's our responsibility, to be message bearers or just deliver what people want?
Right. And I think I've kind of, in all three of our movies, I've kind of done that. I have just a little bit of a mix of, a little bit of Christian messages in there. It's a good family drama with a Christian message you happen to see. And again, I want them to subtly take that away from it. But still be entertained during the actual process.
Yeah. Pull out the poison. Well, we wish you well, and it's great. This is the new film that we think will be available in the 2020 calendar year. II Films is Treasure Lies. Scott Peterson, writer, producer. Thanks for being on No Shame. We're going to look for this and other films from you guys, and hopefully you're going to find that not only audiences are numerous, but are enthusiastic.
Great. Cool.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
You bet.
No shame, no, we are not afraid. No shame of the gospel of His name. It's the power of God by which we all are saved. We need not be afraid.
No Shame is a weekly podcast where John Groders discusses life at the intersection of faith and culture with all kinds of interesting and inspiring guests. Subscribe to the podcast today by going to johngroders.com, select the podcast tab, and hit subscribe. Listen whenever you have time, but don't miss any of these life-giving conversations.